Hey Islanders, welcome back to another episode of Islander Robotics. My name is Will McKeon, and today we're going to be talking about how to write to a file using Python. For those Islanders that have not hit that subscription button in the bottom corner, please go right on ahead and consider smashing that button so you can become part of the Islander community. As always, sit back, relax with your favorite snack, and let's get started, shall we? Alright, so welcome back. I hope you all enjoyed that little bit of a time lapse. And unfortunately, today is going to be the last day, the last video for the YouTube keyword series. I know, I'm pretty sad it's the first series of the channel. Let me know down in the comment section down below on what you all thought about this series, as well as it's not going to be the only series because on Sunday there's going to be a brand new series, so look forward to that. But now back to the code. Like I always like to say, do not take everything we're about to say in today's video as set in stone. Kind of think of this as like my project log, where I'm showing all of you the kind of like tips and techniques I did to achieve my project goals. All right, and one of them is actually we're going to be working with Pandas data frames. So that's just as simple as from Pandas import data frame. Pandas is an awesome module to actually know and understand. I'm just learning this module as it is, but I've learned that this module honestly has more tricks than you could imagine, and you're going to see one of them today. Also, during the testing for this video, I found some errors with the code. So I just want to bring a few of them up and show the corrections that I made. One of them being the insert function, and really what I did that was an error. It was a very silly mistake, and it all starts with this while loop, and I have keep going equal true, which is perfectly fine. That's not the error, but let's continue on. There's 3 sections where I want keep going to be false and causing the if this while loop to break out of the while loop. And those 2 sections are here and here, all right? So the last one's being the one that's going to cause the error, which is keep going equals self.size length keyword. Inside of this function, I actually have it always returning true unless otherwise told to return false, which therefore means if these 2 if statements, this one and this one, change keep going to false, soon as the code gets to here, it's going to change it back to true, making the while loop to continue on. So what I did to automatically break out of the while loop, hence causing the rest of this while loop to not continue on, is I just called a break, and it does exactly what I was just saying. Once this while loop sees that break, it's going to say, hey, get out of this while loop right now, this second. Then that really just fixed my problem on this while loop. The next thing we're going to actually talk about is the top function that we created in a last video. Now, the top function kind of caused a domino effect with the other function we created in the last video, which was the sorted, and I'll tell you all what was going on. So if we continue on to, where is it? Right here, I was using, on line 173 and line 177, you see queue size. I was actually using the queue size from the queue module to be able to tell what the queue size was. But remember how I said about in here where I was saying the while loop to get the to go in a reverse for loop for a Python was to do a while loop. That method was actually causing errors, and I found an alternate way that actually does a better job in doing a reverse for loop in Python. And the best way to actually do that, the best way to actually implement that was most time efficient as well as memory efficient, was by adding this one little thing to the sorting function. All right, and that's right here. What I did was right here. So notice how this is kind of going into a domino effect. So what I did was I took sort and I took it out of self. I didn't want it essentially a global variable. I just left it as sort, and then I said sort.drive. Like I said, it automates the sorting process. The thing I added was self.number, self.string, and self.data, which are all equal to empty list. And those are going to be, number is going to be the sorted number array, the sorted number list from sort. string is going to be the sorted strings, and then data is going to be the sorted keywords and scores. So my bad, strings is sorted keywords, number is sorted scores. All right. And then what I did was Python actually has a thing called reverse, that essentially all you can do to reverse a list is just say for I in reversed sort.data. So it's calling data from sort and it's reversing that list. All right. And that's how we were able to essentially do a reverse for loop, and all the data was going into self.data. Actually, let me rephrase that because that kind of was confusing. All it really is just calling the reverse method. And inside the reverse method, you pass in the list that you want reversed. So the for loop can literally be as simple as for I in reverse sort.data, and then self.data append the I value. And then all the same for the other three as well, which in return also allowed us to save on space save on memory inside of the top, where we said for I in self.data, self.q.put. All right, it was just as simple as that. And then q size equals the length of self.data. That's just so that you don't cause errors in your own program. Well, in the program, it's nice to know the size of your queue. And I kind of didn't, with all the errors that I was finding as I was testing it for today's video, I found that the queue size from that module, in my opinion, was causing some errors. And I don't know if it was because of the way I was using it or what. If you know a proper way to actually use the queue size and you watched last video, please leave it down in the comment section down below so other people can learn. But I just decided to make my variable equal to the length of this list. Now we finally get to talk about writing a file in Python, and that's going to start out with the function of the export file right here on line 184. All right, and really whenever you're exporting any data to a file, there's two types of files that you'll be doing it to: a CSV file and a text file. In today's video, I show you how to actually export to both of those. And starting off, we're going to actually why don't we just start off with 85 and slowly continue on. Really, on 185, all it's doing is just asking the user for their input on what they would like the file name to be. And that's literally all it is. Name equals, what would you like the file to be named? Named. And then after that, I also want to show you two ways to essentially make a file to the correct format. And one of the ways is by the CSV name. And we just said CSV name equals name. And then this plus is going to essentially append underscore scores underscore and underscore keywords dot CSV. So that way the user can implement whatever they want, but they don't have to implement the dot CSV. And also so the user also knows what the CSV is going to be used for. All it's going to be doing is just allowing the user to be able to see the scores and the keywords. Now, how we're actually going to export to the first file type I was talking about. You probably were able to guess it with the variable name from before, but the very first one we're going to use is we're going to be exporting to is a CSV file. Now, there's two ways to actually export your data to a CSV file. You can use the CSV module, but what I found is using this Pandas data frame is the easiest way to actually take your data and turn it into a CSV. And the first thing you have to do is actually turn your data into a Pandas data frame. And that's as simple as just saying data equals data frame self.data, which is essentially those are just the self.data is the variable, the list that we created that had both the scores and the keywords. And we're going to name the columns. The first column is going to be called scores, and then the second column is going to be called keywords. Remember to put this in list format as well. And then after that, it's literally just saying data.to underscore CSV, and then you pass in the file name. Now, if you were to use the CSV module, it's actually a little bit of a longer statement. So that's why I find the Pandas data frame to be the simplest, because it's literally data.to underscore CSV and then pass in your file name. All right. So now that the CSV file is out of the way, the next thing we're going to be working with is actually exporting it as a Txt file, which is just going to be as simple as saying YouTube file equals, and then this is the other format I want to show all of you to create a file name for it, is you can just say call an fstream saying fstream pass in the variable, which in our circumstance is name.txt. And then the way to actually write to that file, you can say open your file, or with Python, it actually has a handy way of opening and closing for you by just saying with open, passing your file name, and then comma, and if you're writing, you're just going to say double quotations W. If you're reading, it would be double quotations R. And then as file, and then for I in self.string, file, so this is so file here and file here are the same variables, and we're just going to say dot write fstream, pass in the I, and then we're going to put a comma so that way the user is able to copy and paste the data from this file into the YouTube keywords. I actually want to mention one more thing before we continue on with the rest of this for loop. By adding this W by default, if Python can't find this file, it's going to automatically open this file. Create this file and then open the file and then do whatever you're trying to do. Alright, so I just want to mention that real quick so you don't have to worry about. That's why I'm allowing the user to create whatever file name they want. Alright, just want to put that out real quick. And then, so as soon as it gets out of this for loop, so as soon as it hits enter, it goes back one, and then one more, Python's going to know it's time to close the file. So you don't actually have to tell Python to close the file. It automatically does it, allowing you not to have to worry about any errors. The last thing we're going to be saying is just allowing the user to know what's going on, saying print a CSV file was made in name of CSV name, a text file was made in name of YouTube file. You can copy and paste this into YouTube. The next thing we're going to be talking about is how I actually implemented this into the driver function. All the lines that we were able to add to the driver function for this section, well, today's video, was everything right here. And the funny thing is, this is 7 lines, but it's copy and paste with a couple adjustments from last video's portion of that was added to the driver statement, well, the driver function. And from 214 all the way to 227, that's 14 lines of code. So 14 lines of code was able to get cut in half into 7 lines of code just by simply getting rid of this if statement right here, which was essentially replaced by self.top of the bottom, and then taking this is sorted, cutting it out of the code, defining it here as false. So the first time driver is called, it's automatically false. And then at the end of the sorting function, we say self.isSorted equals true. So therefore, no matter what, at any portion of this code, since it's part of the self, I always forget what the self stuff is. Leave it down in the comment section down below. But essentially, it's always is sorted no matter at what portion of the code is going to be true or false, depending on if the sorting function was called at all during this period. So that's kind of like something that was cool that I also wanted to change since we were doing all these different changes for the code. So now that I showed you all that little hack I was able to find to essentially like simplify the code as well as simplify the memory efficiency, why don't we go line by line on what would happen if the user was to enter CSV at this portion of the code. It would go first on, we would check to see if is sorted is false and if the length of self.key is greater than 2. Therefore, allowing us to know that the user has entered more than one database. Therefore, we're going to want to tell the user, hey, you're getting shot over to the sorting function because you have to sort, which is exactly essentially what's going on in this print function. And then we're going to call the self.sorting, and then else if we're going to say self.isSorted if that is false and the length of self.key is equal to 2, meaning we only have one database, we're going to call the self.sorting and skip over the print statement. Now, if I had a nested if statement that would allow the print statement to go in and out, you could have done it that way, but there's really no benefit in doing a nested if statement in this circumstance, so that's why I just kept it out. And then afterwards, we're going to say self.export and then self.clearline. All right, and that's what's going on in this portion of today's code. Now we're going to switch over to a terminal where we're going to have the Python file running, as you all can see, and it's going to, like it always does, ask how many databases do I want to enter. We're just going to go with 1, and then 2. Would I like to clear the screen? Let's say yes. And why don't we go with 10. No character limit. What? Some random number. Please type no. Yeah. Will Bob 455, please type in, yep. And then now we're back into now we're in the driver section of the code where we get to decide if we want to sort, we want to see the top values, or if we want to see the files. Since we worked on the files for today, why don't we go straight into the files? So just say CSV, run that. What would I like the name of the file to be? Let's just say Islanders, ISLAN. Alright, enter, and it's going to give us our output. A CSV file was made in the name of Islanders underscore scores underscore and underscore keywords.csv. A text file was made in the name of islanders.txt. You can copy and paste this into YouTube. Type yes to clear the screen, otherwise enter any key to continue. But before we actually continue on, why don't we come over to here and Islander, let's check out the text. So it actually worked. If you remember over here, the format we had this as, we literally just wanted the keyword and then a comma so we can just export it straight into YouTube, which is exactly what it did here. So you can literally just copy and Command C that into a file and into YouTube, and then you're bada bing bada boom. The next thing we're going to talk about is why don't we actually bring up the CSV file. So as you can all see, it's actually in order. So everything right here from 455 Bob, 324 what, 314 Will, that is what we entered. The comma here, 0, 1, 2, scores, keywords, that's everything the Pandas data frame entered. And in reality, if you were to look at this as a as a table, this would just say, I think it's NUL. Just because there's no data there, it's literally a blank column. And for those Islanders that have reached it to this point in today's video, you're all truly awesome. And honestly, thank you so much for watching to this point. It means a lot to me. And I know I mentioned in last video that we would be talking about priority queues in this video. I was planning on using the module we were using in last video, in this software, to use their priority queue class. But I did some research and I was playing around with that module for a little bit, and I realized that it's actually better suited for a different project that we're going to be working on later on down the road. Speaking of which, this is the last video for this project, the YouTube Keyword Planner. This Sunday, we're going to be starting a brand new series, a brand new module. So if you're an Islander and have not yet hit that subscription button as well as that bell icon, please do consider becoming part of the Islander community where we teach each other robotics through programming. As well as if you found this series very interesting and you have not yet done that, please do so you can get notified when the next series comes out, which will be this Sunday. As well as if you enjoyed today's video, or if you found value out of today's video, as well as if you want to share, if you want to help support this channel, please do consider hitting that like button. I really do appreciate it. If you have any questions about any of the stuff we were talking about in today's video, go ahead and leave it down in the comment section down below. I'll be glad to answer the best I can. And really, honestly, you're all super fantastic. Can't wait to see you in the next video. As always, happy coding. Bye.